Okay, it seems I should be live already. If you are with me, somebody can comment that you hear me. And I really welcome you for our next live. Today we speak about South India. For those who come here and they would like to listen it in Polish, it's already on our YouTube. And today we have presentation in English. And as such, we can even have Andrea, who, is just listening, but at least he's understanding what I'm saying. You want to come to say hello? Before those who want to join can join. You can still see Andrea in his sportive version because, well, we plan to run after, so he's already prepared for running.
Hi, everybody.
I don't know if they see you like again.
Yes.
Oh, now I can see you as well.
Hello.
You look so big from
What
this
do you mean?
perspective. Anyway, it would be me speaking as usually. So if you are here, you can let us know by commenting. It tells me that there's trouble with playing this video, so I hope you still see me. Maybe it's only that I cannot see myself. But anyway, we start in a few seconds. So if you want to grab tea, coffee, invite your colleagues and family, you can do that. And we will start. Again, for those who see us later, welcome also in our YouTube, because this is where we put all these kind of things. If you didn't subscribe, if you haven't subscribed our YouTube yet, please do it now, because we need 20 more people to change our name, as I will keep repeating till 100 people will subscribe our YouTube. And okay, we are starting. I don't know if you are with us now or you will join us later. But let me start with a small quiz. Maybe some of you had already a chance to do it on Instagram or on Facebook, and it will be just repetition, but you can also check your answers. So I'm starting with small quiz. Firstly, 7 questions about India, then 7 answers, and then a small comment to it. You can write your answers in the comments to our live, so you can see how it's going, or just make a note in the paper for yourself. You decide. It's always nice to have some comments and have feeling that somebody is listening to me when I speak to my computer. So I encourage you for interaction, and I start our small quiz. So it's about India, and let me tell you first that India has 1.37 billion people. But the question is how many babies per woman they are. If there are 2 babies per woman, 3 or 5. You can write in the comment A, B, C, or just number if you wish. You can make notes in your paper. You have 5 seconds more. And I go to the second question. So, well, you will got this secret that Andrea was born in 1982. And that time, less than half of the population of India was able to read and write. And what is the situation today? That's the question. What percentage of the community in India has a basic level of literacy now? Is it A, 40%, B, 50%, C, 60%? Write down your answer. And we go to question number 3. So India is infamous for quite low hygienic conditions. But let's see, in the last 20 years, the amount of households, of houses with basic sanitation has remained the same, has halved, or has doubled. Do we have the same number? Do we have twice less or twice more houses with basic sanitation? A, B, C, write in comment or your notes. And question number 4, we are in the middle of our quiz. What is the number of people having access to at least basic drinking water services? Is it 88%, 66%, or 77% of people have access to at least basic drinking water in India? We talk only about India today. Number 5, life expectancy rose nearly anywhere in the world in recent years, and now on average person in the world lives 70 years. Speaking about India, 50 years ago it was only 50 years. How much it is today? Is it still 50 years? It's 70 years or it's 60 years? ABC. And 2 more questions to go. Number 6, the number of people living in poverty. Poverty officially is less than $1.25 per day. In the last 20 years in India, of course, has remained the same. So the number of poor people is always the same. Halved, so it's twice less, or doubled, so it's twice more. And the last question is about CO2. So Italy produces 5.4 tons of CO2 per person, while Poland, well, it's 7.5 tons. And how much it is per person for India? Is it 2 tons? Is that 2 tons, 5 tons, or 8 tons? Last chance to write your answer. And I'm going to give you those answers. So let's come back to the first question, which was about how many babies per woman we have in India, 2, 3, or 5. And ta-da-da-da, the correct answer is 2, or actually, yeah, it's 2. It's 2.26 if you want to be precise for women. In 1970, so 50 years ago, it was 5 kids. To compare, it's 1.29 for Poland and 1.51 for Italy. But if you if you answer wrong, don't be worried, because you are in very good company, because as you can see below, only 10% of people actually gave the correct answer. 60% say it's 3 and 30% is 5. We calculated it based on the quiz, which you may have a chance to do on our Facebook or Instagram account. And we go further to see. So next question was about literacy level. So is it 40%, 50, or 60% of Indians who can read and write? And the correct answer is actually 60%. It's still not really European level, but it's a big improvement comparing to the situation when Andrea was born. And again, if you gave the wrong answer, don't worry, because only 20% of people guessed the correct answer. Next one was about hygienic conditions. So how many households, how many houses has access now to basic sanitation? And the correct answer is that the number doubled. There's twice more houses with basic sanitation. It was 22%, and now we have 44%, and this happened from the beginning of century, so last 20 years. This time, let's say that people guess a bit better. So almost nobody say that it's less, and there was 45% say the same, and 45% say double, which was correct answer, as we know now. Question number 4 was about the drinking water services. So how big percent of people have access to drinking water? You may already get more or less the pattern, and it's 88%. So it's actually the highest answer. And doesn't matter if we speak about city or we speak about village, they have access to reliable source of clean water, and only 30% of people get the right answer. Actually, half of people say it's 66, which was much less than it is in reality. Okay, life expectancy. 50 years ago it was 50 years. How much it is today in India? The correct answer is B, 70 years. So in average life expectancy in India is exactly the same as anywhere in the world on average. This time we had votes like, equally. So 1/3 of people say 50 years, 1/3 say 70, and 1/3 said 60. Okay, we have 2 more questions to go. The next one is about people in poverty. So people who live for less than $1.25 per day. So is it the same? Is it twice more or twice less people? And the correct answer is twice less, half. So there's twice less poor people than used to be. Actually, in India, there's the highest amount of the people in poverty in the world. This is 289 million individuals who are in poverty, but it also means that 1 billion is above the poverty line, which is still a majority. Okay, and the last question is about CO2 per person. Compared to Italy and Poland, how much is India to produce? And this time, the correct answer is the lower one. So it's 2. Only 2 tons, even less than 2 tons, is 1.73 tons per person. And of course, we know that Delhi is very, very polluted because this is what we hear in media, right? But in fact, Indian air is still much better than the European one, and only 20% of people got this answer right. Okay, let me summarize the quiz a bit. I hope that some of you had a chance to do it now or before on our Instagram and so on. And let me tell you that our quiz was inspired by FACTFULNESS concept, which was created by Hans Rosling, as well as Ola Rosling, his son, and his wife. And basically, they realize that people in the world have no knowledge about basic facts and numbers. So most of us believe that the world is much worse than it actually is. And they created FACTFULNESS test, which we get inspired to create our About India. Their FACTFULNESS test is more about general situation of the world, and you can find it, for example, at Gapminder website. That's also from where we got our statistics and numbers. So all our questions are based by data which you can find in Gapminder. I really recommend you this website. You can find data about all the countries and million different things. You can play a little bit with things around and see them in really nice visual forms. And the point is again that most people in the world believe that the world is in much worse condition than it actually is. And by most people, I don't mean only like average people like us, people on the street, but also politicians or journalists. They have no idea what is actually happening because they don't read numbers, they don't read statistics, and it doesn't mean that there's no problems to solve. There are still problems to solve. But actually we've solved much more of them than we're told in media. And I really recommend to firstly do FACTFULNESS test, and then you can go to TED Talk How Not to Be Ignorant About the World, which is 20 minutes of spectacular speech of Hans Rosling, who has also very good sense of humor. So we were laughing for 20 minutes, and it really changed our view of the world. So, well, why we have such a bad view of the world? There's many reasons, which Hans Rosling also described in his book called FACTFULNESS, but one of them is our mainstream media, which show us only what is wrong. Open TV, open your newspaper, there will be catastrophe, I mean now coronavirus obviously, but before as well, conflict, hunger, all the bad things. We only know about people who had car accident because nobody tells us how many people safely arrived home and also how much less we have accidents than it was maybe 5 or 10 years ago. So while Hans Rosling in FACTFULNESS tried to show that the world is much better than we think using facts and numbers, we in our project do it by telling individual stories of changemakers, and this is what we will do today on the example of South India. So in Exchange the World project, our goal is also to bring people hope and show that, hey, the world is really not that bad, as our mainstream media tell us, but we do it through individual changemaker stories and through sharing our own experience through traveling, which, you know, we hitchhike, we stay in house of people which we never met in our life before, and we kind of challenge this idea that the world is a dangerous place as well by our personal experience. Okay, that was the introduction, and now I will go to the main topic. So actually two presentation about South India. It's only South today, North will be next time. So I just remind you before I go there that if you have any questions, any comments, please write them under our live. I will answer after our live, but Andrea is there to answer you immediately. So we are very curious about your feedback and comment. And let me go to presentation about South India. It's not exactly only South, it's kind of South Center. And first place we arrived in India after being in Sri Lanka was Chennai, just because they're one of the best plane connection are to Sri Lanka, which makes me think that I have to tell you that there's no boat connection between Sri Lanka and India, because of course we would choose rather this one. But the only way to go out of Sri Lanka to India is to fly, so we fly to Chennai. And I mean, India is, I think, the most intense place we ever visited. And as you know, we visited quite a lot. Intense in all meaning of the word. You just, although, we had kind of smooth passage because already in Sri Lanka we could get something from this part of the world culture. In fact, I think there's no way to being prepared for India in a positive and negative sense of this word. So immediately we jump into crowds, all these people who also want to do selfie with you, get to know you, speak to you, all this stimulation like noise and smells and colors. We got completely lost in it during first few days, and we did so many mistakes, so many cultural mistakes you cannot imagine. Even simple bus, we took a bus to go to our host, and even there we occurred to sit on the wrong space, on the wrong side, because some side is for women, some is for men, or both, and we didn't know which one. And they were just showing us, not really speaking English that well, where we could sit, where we couldn't sit, and so on and so on. So we had to really fastly learn how to move ourselves in India. And yeah, we were going around through Chennai trying to understand how things are working. Is it something wrong?
Yeah, it's laptop and maybe my computer.
Okay, I hope that you hear me because Andrea says blocked and I don't have a chance to check it really. So I keep going. So yeah, you see a lot of people wherever you go actually in India, and most life in Chennai it's focused around along the sea. So you can see people living from fishing, for example, or taking a bath in the ocean, not maybe the cleanest one. They actually take bath in their clothes. So beside Goa, which is called like hippie corner of India, rather forget to do it in your swimming suit, but people really enjoyed after a day of work to go to the water. Chennai itself is not the cleanest place in India. I mean, generally, I'm sure you heard a lot about dirt and rubbish in India, which is not true for every part of India because some of them are much cleaner, but not Chennai, to be honest. So you could find there everything: rubbish, people, boats, beautiful temples, everything really super intense together, but also people who are very happy, well, to do selfie with you, but also to you take photos of them, because it happened also that people jump on us that they wanted us to take photo of them and take with our camera later, which I never understood exactly why they were doing that. You see also a lot of mix of culture. This is Catholic church, but it's built like in the shape of actually Hindu temple, which is much more common in that part of the world. But one of the most beautiful things we've seen in Chennai and this part of India was so-called kolam, which is like, I would call it kind of mandala, but it's called kolam, which women were drawing every morning in front of their houses. It's done from this white powder, which they actually keep in between fingers, very often between 4 fingers, so they can do 4 lines of it at the same time. And they would do it every morning, and during a day, wind, people walking would destroy it. So in the evening, they would clean the pavement, so it's ready for next morning to do it again. And it's kind of symbol of gratefulness for the next day coming. And it reminds us that time passed, nothing is really constant. You may also find some with colors, although they are less common than just those white ones. Okay, in Chennai, we were actually hosted by Go Floaters, which is kind of, it's kind of a similar idea to Airbnb, but for working spaces. So instead of renting one office, you can actually take their service, and they rent you office wherever you need it, and for whatever you need it. So maybe you go to this city and you need just office for your work, and then you go to that city and you need office to work with some other people, and then you go to the other city and you need space for workshop, and they kind of do it for you. But they also have huge network of people involved into social issues, and we did a workshop for them, our first workshop in India, where we shared our stories, but we also get to know a lot of local stories. One of my favorite was about pencil. which inside had seeds of plants. So once the pencil is over, you could just put it in the ground and there's a chance that beautiful plant will grow out of it. And actually, this kind of projects, so co-working spaces, usually are those who are more happy to host us in India. So if you look for alternative way of traveling, of course, besides Couchsurfing, which we mentioned, very often co-working spaces are those which are really worth to contact in India. This is already co-working space in Bangalore, which is a city more in the central India. And they not only have co-working space, but even a huge space for events like weddings, or like in this case, or small cafeteria, or even open air cinema. But they also have space for living, and that's the where they hosted us. It was in The Hub, Bangalore. If you are there, strongly recommend it. And while we were hosted by them, we also went around a little bit to visit local changemakers, of course. And this is the first one, which I will talk about, Project Defy. It stands for Do Education for Yourself, and they believe that basically the education which we have at school doesn't match everybody. So it matches some percent of people, of course, but not everybody, and we should rather take education to our hands and design it the way it's suitable for us. And what they do in practice is they open small educational center, they call it Nook, in different, usually rural communities, and they invite people to come and learn what they want to learn. So they work in 3-month cycles. So at the beginning of the cycle, with the help of like Nook manager, which is also the person from that village, they decide the goal they want to achieve in this next 3 months, what they want to learn, why they want to learn it, and so on. And then they decide how often they want to come, maybe once a week, twice a week, every day, and using the tools which are in the space, internet, books, but above all, the people who are around, they're trying to learn what they decided to learn. At the end of the cycle, there's a celebration, so people can present to others what they did, take the feedback, and celebrate their success. And then they decide if they want to have a new goal for next 3-month cycle, or maybe they take a break. It's up to them. Actually, they have already 16 or 17 centers all over India, and not only. And they support it at the beginning for first 2-3 months, but then they withdraw and leave the lead to community itself. So every new Nook is in some sense quite unique. Another changemaker project we met is quite different. It's called A Forest, and it's about forests, as you can imagine. And in their case, it's a little bit similar to analog forestry, which was the project we volunteered in Sri Lanka. So basically, they study the natural forest of the place and try to rebuild it in any given space. So even if you have very limited space, they will design forest for you, which will be similar to natural forest, but also will kind of answer your needs. If you need more beautiful trees or fruit trees or whatever it is, they can help you and see if it's possible. They work not only in India but also in Netherlands, and it is said that if you are in Netherlands, wherever you are, in several kilometers you can find forests designed by them. So it also shows a little bit the scale they actually operate. And what is very important message they have is that if you want to plant tree, it's very beautiful, but planting tree is not enough. You have to know how to plant it. Because otherwise it just dies after a few years, and well, your beautiful act will not have the serious consequences we want it to have. So as much as you don't build house yourself, but you take specialists, they believe that you don't build forest yourself, but again, you take professionals for that. Next project is called In the Village, and In the Village is actually the only B Corp we had a chance to discuss with, and they use the fact that India is a place where we have a lot of outsourcing. So many companies would call workers from India because they are cheaper and would outsource some services to them. So In the Village use this system to bring work to actually villages of India. So people don't have to move to the cities, leaving their family and so on, but they can work in the village, which gives opportunity to work to many people who may not be able to even move to the cities, like women, for example, which it's considered too dangerous to move to the cities. So they provide them job in the place they live, in the village, but once they start to collaborate with the village, they also take care of it, meaning that some profit it's going not only for salaries, but also for social projects which would be taken in this particular village. So together they decide if their priority is to firstly have a hospital or better school facility or water system, whatever it is, they take some of the profits they make and they invest it in develop village itself and community itself, not only to pay salary to workers. And the last for now would be rank D, which is very similar to idea of kiva.org, which you may know because it's a little bit more famous. So basically the idea is that common people can give mini credits to individuals, organizations which want to start some project, business, and so on. So instead of being based just on banks, we actually ask normal citizens like me and you to give a little bit of money as a credit to somebody who needs money to change his or her life. This is very local in India, so if there's anybody from India listening to us now, worth checking. And actually the same person had another business which is called Habba, because he realized that, okay, he was supporting with these mini grants the small entrepreneurs, but very often their challenge was that they didn't really know how to sell. They didn't have distribution and so on. So actually they opened the Habba shop, which exactly sell products of small entrepreneurs and from India. And what we love about this project is that on their website, you can see not only products, but you can see exactly what % of your money is going where. If you've ever been in our responsible consumption workshop, you know that we like to show people that, for example, I don't know, 1% of price for your jeans is going there, and 10% is going there, and 25% is going there. And they exactly show you, if you pay $10, who will receive how much money from your for your $10. Okay, that was about changemakers. But of course, it's not the only changemakers that we visit while being in the Indian cities. We also go around, try to understand the culture a bit, and so on. For example, here we were in the bar and we ordered one Indian South food and one North food. So this is let me see. This is South, and this is North. Well, as you see, the difference is not that huge. The concept of the meal is quite similar. So you have rice. In North version, it's more popular to have chapati, which is like flat bread, and then different kind of sauces. There's always something with lentils or with this kind of thing, plus different kind of vegetables. So you can try little almond, but of different tastes, which we loved actually, and really recommend in India. And then we were going a little bit around the city. I mean, you can find their cows, as it is said, but not only. But I have to say that Indian cities were, for me personally, quite difficult. I mean, I'm a little bit introvert person, and all this like chaos was very difficult for me. So almost in every Indian city, I was just sick, which is not that nice because at the end there's a lot of beautiful things to see. Just people themselves are beautiful to observe. The colors, the culture, which you can see almost every corner, is indeed very unique. And there's a lot of things to discover about India. For example, here you see coins, and you see that besides being written 1 and 2, it's also shown by fingers 1 and 2, which recall some traditional dance, but it also shows people who are maybe illiterate, and as we know, there's still quite a big % of those people. It helps them to use this money because they know how much it is. Another interesting fact about India is that, I mean, something like India just simply doesn't exist. India is more a continent or federation rather than country, because every state in India, every district have their own culture, their own food, and also their own language. So here, for example, you see the board, and it's written something in the local language, in English and in Hindu. So there are 3 official languages, and those languages have absolutely nothing in common. As you see, even alphabets are different. So whatever you say about India is true and false at the same time, because it's like saying something about Europe. It's just a big part of, like, you know, mix of culture, languages, everything. And south and north have nothing in common, but even like one district from another is completely different. Even the way people look like, it's completely different. And we discovered it actually when we moved from Chennai, which is in Tamil Nadu, to really south, which is Kerala. We took a train to Trivandrum. And now there will be a train story. Because taking train in India, it's a challenge, believe me. It's a really huge challenge. It took us really few weeks, if not months, to understand the system. So our first train, we tried to book when we were still in Sri Lanka, because apparently if you want to go for a long trip, you have to book a train before. They're booked at least a few weeks before actually your trip. But it's not that easy. I mean, you can do it online. That's good news. But you have to register there, and if you don't have local number, and when we were in Sri Lanka still we didn't have it, it's even more complicated because they have to verify your foreign number and they don't send you SMS as they do with local numbers. So some information gets lost. It took us like at least 5-6 trials to actually register. Then we have to confirm that it's us. It took us another 3 days, and then we have to understand how to book this train. Because when we actually got this point, our train was already full. So there was no official place we could book. But if you can always book in paper ticket and get yourself in the waiting list. And they even give you probability of, so how big is the probability you get actually the place? Our was like 70-something%. They calculated based on the previous year. And then your status is changing meanwhile. So there was a moment when from waiting list, we got RAC. And we Googled it, and RAC means reservation against cancellation. No idea what it means. And here I really great, and there's a big thank you and big ratings from Deepak, who was the one who really took us through this whole system the first time, because otherwise we would never make it. So reservation against cancellation means that you have half place guaranteed. Half place, it still didn't tell us much, but as you can see on the photo, basically in the long trains there are sleepers, so there are places to sleep. So half place means that you have half of the bed, and actually with 2 people you could even sit, although sitting for 15 hours in the night is not that comfortable. But if you wouldn't make it for full ticket, it already kind of guarantee you can go inside the train. Finally, we got the ticket for us both, although we had no idea if we should print it, we should confirm it somewhere, or we should just go straight to the train. I have to tell you that, I mean, we went straight to the train, and I just tried to cry once we were there, out of all these emotions and stress and these old people around. And actually, it was a very good journey. There was a conductor coming, but when he saw us, he didn't even ask for our ticket, because probably he has his list and he saw the foreign names, and he just said, okay, that has to be them. And then we kind of managed better and better with the train. And they are actually very comfortable. What you see here now is sleeper, is the cheapest option. Maybe, I mean, you can also have seating one, but for sleeping is the cheapest option. It's kind of 4th class, in fact, because there are 3 class above already with like air conditioning and so on and so on. But it's still really, really good, especially in south, because north things generally are a little bit more difficult. But about north, I will tell you next time. Okay, of course you have beautiful views, and just for that it's worth to take few trains in India. It's the most comfortable way to travel. It's much better than bus or any other option. And we took this train, and after 15 hours we ended up in ashram. That's also quite funny story, because I just wrote quite randomly email to the ashram, which before was also the school. And I find them in the website called Give India, where are different NGOs, different social organization, educational organization, and I just write them email, this is us, we do these things, maybe we can come, do workshop in exchange for food accommodation, as we usually do. And Swami means like kind of teacher, answer, yeah, you can come, and when you come, we see what we can do together. Then they stop answering for 2 weeks. So I already find the alternative, because I didn't believe we can come. But day before, Swami said, yeah, you are all welcome. Come, you can stay as long as you want. And so we came, and we end up to speak with Hindu kind of priest, let's say, about menstruation. That was our first topic. We speak about period of women, which you have to understand, it's not very common. Yeah, actually, I mean, especially in religious context, it's completely taboo topic. But he was not only crazy about this topic, and he really wanted to have menstruation education in India, which again, we speak about the country in which you cannot even put your underwear to dry outside because it's already shame. So not mentioned to speak about menstruation period. And he not only got crazy about topic, but he also invites Karin there, and we happen to be in his ashram in the same time. And Karim is from Australia, and she works exactly for the education of girls, women, but also men, fathers, for example, of period, the meaning of period in different ways. And she came there for 3 weeks to actually also do this education for Indian girls and women. And I have to tell you that the four of us make unbelievable team. We were there only 3 days, but we completely fall in love with both of them, with the place, with everything. And we really, really, really would like to come back there. I don't know if there's a chance, Swami, you listen to us, and we actually even exchanged some messages today, and we are still planning to come back to you. We thought to come back in May, but you know, situation in the world changed a bit. But this again would be more the topic for next presentation. But we spent those 3 days with Swami, and that was a really crazy time. I mean, he has this approach of teaching, of making every possible situation a learning opportunity. So he teaches us how to do Indian food, but also, for example, he taught us how to clean the nose. I'm not a very good student. I didn't get it. Andrea was much better. So you can see that, you know, you put the salty warm water in one hole of your nose, and it goes out on the other hole and then somehow clean. I don't know, I never got it. But Andrea, as you see, did, and he said it helps. But we also had a lot of talk about spirituality, meaning of life, and so on and so on. And meanwhile, we try to volunteer a little bit. So here we try to build from bamboo the structure for the plants to grow, which I hope is still there because we didn't have that much time to do it. But the truth is that we didn't give that much. What we wanted to do is the changemaker course there, and we still hope to do it. But we receive really, really a lot. Once Swami took us also to the dinner in the city. This is dosa, which is kind of also flat pancake more than bread. And you can use it, you can eat it in a million different versions. I think in this bar where we were, it was like more than 100, and it was really delicious. And funny fact is that once we went to the city, we realized that everybody come to our Swami to say, oh, hello, how are you? But with really huge respect. And, you know, step by step, we realize that our Swami is not that usual Swami. And actually, he's very well-known authority in Kerala. He has a fan page which is like 200,000 people following. He has thousands of share of every post he does. He's fully respected, although very alternative. But at the same time, he's probably one of the most modest people we met in all India. In India, it's not that common that people from middle class, or especially people from higher and, you know, like religious leaders belong rather to higher class. It's not common that they would, for example, clean or do shopping. You know, it's rather quite big division of tasks. And people were surprised even seeing us cleaning or volunteering on doing like physical work, while our Swami firstly would have, you know, his life on Facebook for like hundreds of thousands of people, like teaching them about spiritual life, and then he would change his clothes and clean personally, you know, toilets in his ashram, and he would be completely fine with that. I mean, you would never ever guess that he's such an important person because of attitude above all he had toward us, and we really consider him very much not only also authority for us, but a really close friend. Although again, we were there only 3 days, but when you're traveling, things happen much faster outside. Okay, let me tell you about last day with our Swami, because that was one of the craziest we had in this part of India. So he asked us if we want to go to orphanage of elephants. And we say, yeah, sounds cool. Let's go to orphanage of elephants. So we went. There are different elephants, for example, blind elephant, which just cannot come back to this wild environment and so on. So we had a chance to stay with them a bit, to see how they wash them, even to have a trip in bamboo boat around. So it was already quite exciting. But the best was still to come. So on the way back, first of all, he stopped and he said, you know what, let's try banana. And in Europe, when we say banana, we rather think about one fruit, while there you will have like I don't know, 10 different types of banana, and we have banana degustation. So Swami would buy one banana of each type, cut it in different pieces, and we will try to see the difference. And then we still thought we actually go home, but what happened was that we just stand in front of one ashram, and he asked us, "Oh, maybe you want to see another ashram?" And we said, "Well, why not?" He didn't mention is the ashram of very old tradition of Ayurveda, which is kind of, let's say, alternative medicine coming from India from very ancient times. It's not only about curing people, it's much more about our well-being. And it's coming not only from practice, but also with specific natural medicines. And this particular ashram, they are actually producing them. It's a community of people who are quite isolated from the world. They live in very natural ways. So, for example, they don't really wear clothes usually. They do here just for us. And we could only see men. Women don't really come to communicate with other people. They do kind of tours for people, usually to show around, so people can also buy their medicines. But when we arrived there, it was already closed. But our Swami is a person who never accepts no for answer. So we had our private tour, and we could see how it actually looked like, and it really looked amazing. And we even had the chance to try some of their medicine, and I don't know about their health effect, but they are for sure delicious. We couldn't see a health effect on us maybe that much because all in all we tried them once or twice. But in their case, I mean, if you look at their skin and the eyes, I think I never seen such a healthy looking people in my life. All of them. It was just so bright and so different than the appearance of people we used to see on the streets. And everything was shared in this community, even children in some sense. They don't think who is the mother and father. Children belongs to community. So it's very different approach to life. We could learn a lot during this 1 or 2 hours we spent there. And unfortunately, again, we left after that day. Really missing those guys a lot and hoping to come back, which again was not that possible this moment, but who knows. But we continue our way from Trivandrum more north, still in Kerala. But before that, you see, I have to tell you about Kantari. So it was still in Trivandrum, and Kantari was also one of the most amazing organizations and changemakers we met. We heard about them already some years ago, and this is a place where they prepare social leaders, and they kind of take people who already overcome some adversity, they already experience some difficulties in their life and manage to go out through them. They take people who are part of their own target group and prepare them during 7 months course to become social leaders of their own communities. And they have absolutely amazing stories of ex-soldiers, people with albinism, people, like all people who are coming for violence, who take the courage to stop their life for the 7 months, go to India, prepare themselves to open their own organization, come back to their own community, and change life of hundreds of thousands of people. Their alumni per year reach more or less 50,000 people. And we are just writing their story, so soon you will be able to read it on our website. But also there's a movie, Kantari, Change from Within, which is now available for free online. It's 50 minutes movie. Documentary, amazing. You should really see it. And who knows, maybe you're the one who could actually apply for the next training, or somebody who will be suitable for the course. It's based on a scholarship, so the only thing you have to do, pay for, is to go to India for travel to India and visa. So have a look, kantari.org, if you want to know more from their website directly. And from there, we went to Kochi, which is more touristic part of Kerala. A lot of people love it. We were a little bit more skeptical about that. It's quite a touristic place. What is nice is that this boat you see here is part of public transport, so you can go around in quite nice boat. And it's quite nice peninsula to visit. And what was crazy is that, we use couchsurfing there. And what I love about this workaway, volunteering, couchsurfing is that you never know who you meet. So from ashram, very silent, very spiritual education oriented. We end up in the Couchsurfer, which just took us for a beer. I mean, I think first and one of the last in India, because it's not very common to drink alcohol. But we end up in quite nice bar, you know, speaking very fluent English for the very first time in India, and discovering it from the very different corner. So we actually value couchsurfing experience a lot, exactly for this, that you can have completely different people one day after another. And exactly this happened also this case, because with this guy we stayed for 2 nighs, and then we moved to another couchsurfer, even more north of Kerala, on the very small island. And this part of India is called famous from so-called backwaters. So you take a boat and you go in between small islands and villages to see how people live, which we never did, but we end up with Couchsurfing in one of these small islands. We had to go there by tuk-tuk because, I mean, there are jeeps from time to time, but in one jeep there's like 20 people, and with our backpack we were not able to go there anymore. So it was one of, I think, 2 cases we took tuk-tuk. So motor taxi, we tried to avoid it because all in all for environment it's better to take public transport. But in this case there was no other choice, and we actually slept in this house. It doesn't look that good, right? But we have a tent. So, I mean, with a bit of roof, water, and electricity, we were more than fine. And you know what? I mean, the only thing I dreamt about was to just spend 2 days in this island speaking to nobody and just take rest from all the stimuli, people, colors, and so on. I was really super tired. And that was beautiful paradise island to do it. People were not very used to see white people, but also not very used to jump them. So even if we're going around, there was a lot of curious side, I mean, from our side to them as well. But definitely we could find there the calm corner. But it didn't happen. I mean, I don't know. It never happened in India that we managed to really take our time to rest, because we met actually another couchsurfer guest from Ukraine who told us, hey, there is Tayam festival and you have to come because it's amazing. You know, it's you have to see the photo and I'm sure that you would love to go. And we saw more or less these photos, and we thought, okay, maybe you're right, we have to go. And before I tell you more about that, I want to show you a movie from the festival which explains a bit better what I'm talking about. Okay, so movie is ready. Okay. So let me give you 2 minutes movie, and meanwhile I'm checking also comments. If you want to ask something or if you want to write something, this is the best time. Okay, let's go. Okay, so that was a small example of how the dance and celebration of Tayam look like. Now a little bit more photos of explanation, although it's not that I know that much. It's basically a festival which is celebrated in the North Kerala, so in a very small region. And you have different Tayams. Tayams are these figures, these guys in the mask and so on. There's more than 400 of them, of types. But the most popular are like 100 of them. And actually those which you saw in the photo are those which you meet more often. So basically, it's like all day or even night celebration. So they are dressed by community, but they don't come already dressed to the show. Dressing itself is part of the show. So you see that they take some, you could see also in the movie that they dress a little bit, or like here for example, and then they come to dance, or to also bless people and so on. Then they do a little bit more makeup, or maybe put a hat and then dance again. It's quite long, everything with drums around. And meanwhile, they also bless people with kurkuma. They put some kurkuma and they speak few words to every person, so it actually takes a while. Sometimes it's one of them, sometimes it's two. So here, for example, we have main Tayam and the helper. Also because main Tayam have like covered eyes, so he doesn't see too much. So the helper is the one who takes him around. And it's always the same family doing that. So every temple will have a family who from generation to generation is passing this knowledge and experience about the dance and so on and so on. And every single temple, even the smallest one, have Tayam in Kerala, in North Kerala. The problem is that there is no list of Tayam. So if you want to find this festival, the only way is to actually ask people around. Because, I mean, there are some announcements, but it may happen that they change their mind and do it 3 days later. So you have to just go to a small village and ask people, hey, where is there Tayam today or tomorrow? And they will tell you where to go and want to see. And it's definitely worth experience at least once. And it's kind of open theater, there's no stage. People just come. Also, they receive meals, so they eat together that day. And they celebrate. It takes like 2 months. It's January and February in Kerala. Hopefully till next January, February, we'll be able to travel again. So definitely it's something we recommend. And speaking about North Kerala, the last thing I want to mention is our volunteering project, because as you may know, we based our travel on exchange a lot. So we also volunteer in exchange for food and place to stay. And we actually stayed here in Kanila Eco Homestay. And we were the first volunteers in this local tribe, local community. We were welcomed with beautiful dinner with candles. And it's always very exciting experience to be first volunteer in one place, because I mean, on one hand, it's a bit challenging because they don't know yet how to treat you, but on the other, it's very fresh, it's the first time, so always first experiences are a little bit more exciting. We receive a lot from them, so not only food, but also cooking class. So open air cooking class, here we are preparing snacks, spicy snacks, for the coffee. And when the evening came, we also have some like full meal cooking class. So we help and we learn how to prepare Indian food, which is spicy. It's really spicy. As we said before, it's usually rice with few different sauces or additional toppings, let's say. And again, be careful what you take. And in exchange, we were volunteering, for example, trying to paint a little bit the rooms for the guests, or working in the garden. But the truth is that at the end, they didn't know how much work they can give to volunteers. So yes, I have a feeling we could contribute much more. What we could contribute mostly was to be kind of, mascot, going also to different celebrations. So here, for example, we were invited to open educational center in a very small village. And also to give some speech, because it kind of, in the village where no white people come, it kind of gives some additional value. And for us was amazing experience of actually be in very traditional rural area. And after all the speeches and opening, there was lunch. And in this part of India, they traditionally eat on the banana leaves, as you can see here. So you are served different things, again, rice and some toppings. And then you eat. People usually eat with hands, which is a very interesting idea, although not that easy if you eat rice with sauce. But it's amazing opportunity to actually feel food with all the senses. So in some sense, you feel the structure, you feel the temperature before you even have it in your mouth. So the experience became more mindful and somehow more complete. Recommended. But when you try first time with rice and sauce, better make a space around because it will make a lot of dirt as well. But it is a unique experience. And actually, that time our camera disappeared, and it occurs that they start to take photos in between themselves. So we have some portrait of beautiful villagers, which was done by villagers themselves. And meanwhile, we were eating. And what I also like about this food is that everybody's served when the time comes. So even if it's time, so usually there's first round of people eating, then you clean, second round, until everybody would be filled. And even if it's children, they are still served the same way as a special guest. So once you sit, you are served. Once you eat, you actually change and start to serve other people. At the end of this day, we received this scarf, which is kind of special gift for special guests. So we're really touched by how much welcoming was this family, which you see in the picture here, and it was very exciting for us as well. Of course, a lot of selfies, as you can imagine. And actually then it occurs that we cannot stay anymore in our volunteering place because some guests are coming. So our host, which is sitting just close to me, invited us to his cousins who are living in very, very rural area of India and speak a bit less English than him. So it was quite interesting challenge of communication, speaking few words in English now and there. Of course, we were welcome with food first. And then we had a chance to go a little bit around with our hat from the bamboo leaf, which protects from sun. Very useful in the field work, which we had a little bit, but not that much, I have to say. But it was beautiful to observe people around. And again, we just became a big attraction for those who are there. But I have to say that in this case, at least they really try to communicate with us in English and not only take selfie, which is really beautiful to have at least this few sentences of communication and cultural exchange. That's where we spent our last 2 days in South India. From there, we leave that part of India, heading more into the north, which will be topic in the presentation of next week. So next week, Tuesday at 6, we'll speak in Polish about North India, and then in 2 weeks in English if you want to join us. But South India is definitely a good place to start if you go to India. It's much calmer, much cleaner, much easier to travel than North India. And there's a lot of beautiful corners to discover. This is a fort just very close to our volunteering place, which we didn't visit at the end because it was like 10 times more expensive for foreigners than for local people, which happen very often. So we choose instead spending our last few hours in South India on the beach, observing people around, in kind of calmness, and also like summarizing inside ourselves what did we experience so far, what have we experienced so far, and what we want to achieve, what we want to experience, what we want to see and discover in the North India itself. And this brings us to the end of South India presentation. So if you have any questions to that, that's the unique opportunity to ask them. Please write in the comments, or if you watch us later in the recordings on our YouTube, you can always give us a message, and I would be very happy to answer it later. So I give you 1 minute for writing question to see if there's anything you want to tell me or give your feedback. And meanwhile, I will invite you again for our YouTube. There's more movies, not only this one which you saw, and it would be really great to have you there. As I mentioned, we need more subscriber, and there is more contact to us here as well. So if you don't follow us on Instagram, please do it. You have also our contact mail, WhatsApp, and so on. And I'm talking it now, so you have time to ask questions if you wish. And anyway, we are always happy to answer any question. Just contact us if you want, or give us your feedback to tell us what you think about our presentation. And again, you are more than welcome to join us in 1 week for Polish life about North India, and in 2 weeks for English life about North India. Okay, I'm going to comments to see if there's any question. It's really nice to see some known faces, some new faces. I see that maybe we should think about life in Italian as well. Who knows? Maybe in future, but I don't see any questions. So for now, I will thank you a lot for those who are here with us right now, and hope for those who will watch us later on YouTube. And I wish you a very good day. Bye bye.